Welcome to Broad Eye, the podcast that explores knowledge gaps in ophthalmology and eye care.
Welcome everyone. Here's another episode of the Broad Eye podcast. Today we have Marcoux, a Canadian Paralympic athlete on alpine skiing. How's it going, Mac? Pleasure to have you here today.
Hey, I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. I'm super interested about people that do sports with disabilities, and have a ton of questions for you. So let's start from the beginning. When did you start skiing, recreationally?
Recreationally, I started when I was really young. I would say three or 4 years old. We had a ski hill growing up that was only I'd say 15, 20 minutes away, and it was just an easy way for my parents to get us all out and doing something together during the week. So we go night skiing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It was, a very small hill. It was something fun to do. I think we were 300 feet vertical and one chairlift with a couple street lights, and it was enough for us to go out and have some fun and just play outside as a family.
Yeah, here in Canada, for the listeners that don't live here, it's super important, to have an outdoor activity during the winter. Otherwise, we'll all go nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, I grew up in Northern Ontario, so it's winter for a fair amount of the year, and winters are pretty harsh. So, finding ways to keep us outside was always a good idea.
Yeah. And at that age, was it known already that you had a visual problem?
No, I was not diagnosed with my eye condition until I was 8 years old, and I was up at that point. I was seeing very well, and I think it happened very quickly. I was in the school. I think I was in grade 3 or 4. And every couple of weeks, I started at the back of the class, and I just started working my way forward. And I just couldn't see the chalkboard. So every 2 weeks or so, I'd move forward. And within, the time span of 2 or 3 months, I'd gone from the back of the class to the front, and I was still struggling to see. So my teacher had recommended that I should go see an eye doctor and get something checked out. And that started a pretty lengthy journey into figuring out a diagnosis, and it ended up being Stargardt's disease, which is a juvenile form of macular degeneration. And it's taken all of my central vision and left me with 6% in the peripheral as of right now.
All right, man. Yeah, it is relatively rare, Alex. So I understand how it took some time for people to nail that diagnosis. Do you know anybody else that had that condition?
We didn't at this point. It wasn't, normally it is a genetic disease and it should come from somewhere in the family. But at this point, there wasn't anyone that we knew of that had any eye conditions of any kind. So I think it just made it a little bit more difficult to try and figure out, what was going on. But yeah, eventually we got it all figured out.
And back to skiing. So until that point, you were probably skiing by yourself. When was it that you started to need someone to help you?
Yeah, I actually continued to ski. We skied recreationally until we were 8 as a family, and then after my diagnosis, we just started looking for sports for visually impaired athletes. And at that point, I'd been racing go-karts outside of skiing and spent a ton of time, dirt biking and snowmobiling and just playing outside. We lived in a pretty rural part of Northern Ontario, so our fun was was very much gasoline based. Everything was motorsports, and when we looked into sports for visually impaired athletes, we looked into pretty much every option there was and stumbled across ski racing. And having already skied growing up and looking at some video and for all the information that we could find online, and gosh, I don't even know, it would have been 2006, 2005. we thought it looked like a lot of fun. I thought it looked like the closest thing I could get to go-kart racing. So we jumped in with the local ski club in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and I actually skied on my own. I skied able-bodied for 4 or 5 years until my vision deteriorated enough that I needed a guide, and I needed someone to ski behind, someone to tell me what was going on. So I didn't actually start skiing with a guide until 2011.
How old were you at that time?
I would have been 13, somewhere around there. It was the age that I was finally old enough that I could start competing, within the world of para alpine skiing. And I figured that season my brother and I thought we'd give her a go, see what it was like. We'd ski raced on our own for a couple of years at that point. Thought we'd see what would happen if we stacked both of us in a course, and ordered some headsets online, and we just kind of winged it. To be honest, it was a lot of trial and error, and honestly, it still is a little bit.
Of course. And I mean, super newbie question there. Like, are those competitions like divided by age, or is it like everyone together?
They're not divided by age, so it's they're I guess once you start competing, you're in with the big dogs right off the bat.
So at 13 years old, you were competing against like full grown adults.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very impressive, man. And like diving a bit into the mindset, at that time, because like I love to hear those stories, man, because like you have so many things against you, right? Like, I mean, so you're young, and you just had that like disease diagnosed, and but you kept pushing, like, and you went to compete anyway. So what was going on in your mind at that time? What was your main drive, like, I mean, to give it a shot?
Honestly, we were just having fun. I think I was very lucky to have such a supportive family right off the bat when I was diagnosed, and my family didn't really put me in a bubble by any means, and I never had to stop doing anything. A little bit of changing things up, but I think that made a very easy transition. And as my vision was deteriorating from 8 onward to where I started competing at a higher level, I think it was just all about going out and having fun, and just learning to improvise, adapt, overcome. In a way, we were just a couple kids getting to go fast on skis, and that's all we needed. and and I think that's what really kind of drove us to competing at such a high level. The faster we skied, the more we got to ski race, and it was just a win-win in our heads.
Yeah, but like I always think that fun is the most reliable motivation to do anything, man. It never lets you down.
Absolutely. And as now, fast forwarding 10 years on the World Cup, I'd have to say that's probably my biggest motivator, is just finding ways to have fun, and keeping that feeling of just being a little kid going outside and having a blast.
That's cool, man. Going into the technicality of it, like, I mean, you started skiing with your brother, right? Like, I mean, as a alpine skiing, like, you need a buddy, right, with you.
Yeah.
So first was your brother, and then it was Jack, and then eventually, and it was Tristan, which I believe is your current partner. Explain us a bit, like, how that relationship goes, and like, I mean, what exactly do you need from them, and how hard or easy it was to transition from one partner to another?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the common misconception with guides is that that they're calling left and right and trying to explain as much as they possibly can. But for myself, I'm in the highest classification of visually impaired, which means I have the most vision. I'm in the most vision category, so I can still see enough where I can
least impaired, like.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That. Thank you.
I guess that's because your peripheral vision is still preserved, and that kind of like, I mean, guide you a bit on where to go? Is that why?
Exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. So it's not as much I'm getting, cues left and right. It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
more of, explaining different terrain changes where we are on a course, different combinations that are coming up, especially in tech races. So it's more so just giving me more of an idea of my surroundings, and giving me kind of the best opportunity to succeed. A lot more of what I'm doing is watching what's happening, in their skiing, body position wise, and watching what's happening with their feet, so I can see where all those micro terrain is. I can see where the little bumps and little things that might toss me out just a little bit. So I'm just paying attention to as much as I can, um, and taking in the little bit of cues that we're getting on the way down, in order to try and put together a decent run.
And because I mean, I would assume it takes a lot of skills, right? Like to be a guide as well, and they need to be like very good skiers as well, not to slow you down.
Yeah, it's been I've been very fortunate with guides. They've all been super strong skiers. I think my brother I ski with the longest out of everybody, and we had a little bit different dynamic in the sense that we were both progressing at the same time. So there were lots of days where we spent a lot more time on the ground, I think
Mm-hmm.
crashing and just trying to figure it out together, up until he retired. And I skied with a lot of guides in and out, throughout my brother's career, as he was injured a fair amount throughout the seasons. Um and then as I transitioned from, my brother, I skied with actually Robin Femi a fair amount, throughout that six or so years that my brother was skiing, and so I had a taste of what it was like to ski with a different guide.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, for me, it was a really cool opportunity to get to ski with somebody different, in the sense that everyone has a little bit different style of skiing, a little bit different technique, and even the mindset going in. So just being able to jump in behind, Rob, and then Jack, and now Tristan, all who are phenomenal ski racers. It's pretty cool to be able to jump in and, take a little bit from each of them in a sense. And there's a lot to learn by skiing right behind somebody. So it was always really cool. There's definitely a learning curve as you switch guides. You go, there's at the beginning, there's a lot of just trying to figure out what I need, and for me to be able to relay that information as much as possible, so that we can get on the same page as fast as we can. And then from there it's pretty seamless. We just kind of put on miles, and I think the more we ski together, the more confident we come with each other. And it fortunately, so far, it's always worked out in the best way. I've been super lucky. They're all really great guys as well. So it's been a blast.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's still on the training there, like because like I mean, any sport there are very known ways of training, right? So if you want to become a better athlete, you just follow sort of like the rules to improve. But in your case, is there any structured way to guide like the way you learn, like something that has been done in the past that you're just trying to repeat it, or it's really a try and error, and you're there like just like exploring ways like to go down faster?
It's more so trial and error. There's only so many different ways you can really ski in a course. You only have so much opportunity, and like within the turns that are already set for you. So when it comes to actually skiing and training, I think the best thing we can do is go free ski together right off the bat, and just calling all of the information that they see, and just practicing relaying that, bumps, jumps, rolls, stuff like that, stuff that so just becomes really second nature. And then from there it makes a lot easier transition into a training course. But other than that, it's it's pretty much just winging it. We go out, we see what works. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, we go back to the drawing board and try it again.
That's cool, man. So switching from training to competition, I've been to a lot of competitions myself, so I kind of like and I understand a bit, like the drive and the rush that we have from competing, but I also know that it means different things from different people for different people. So when it comes to you, like, I mean, what is the experience of competing and eventually winning?
It's competing is exactly what you said. There's a different feeling. There's a different drive you get when it comes into competition season compared to, a very long training season, especially over the last year and a half or 2 years now. The training seasons have been very long and with very little bit of racing. So, but I think it's very much evolved over the years. When I was younger, I was just so eager to race and just to get as much mileage under my belt and take in as much as I possibly could. And as I get a little bit older, it's evolved a little bit to more so kind of a picking and choosing which races I need in order to I need to get some racing in under my belt. But also nowadays I'm managing a lot more things that I didn't have to worry about when I was younger, with just taking care of my body and trying to make it last through a whole season, with injuries piling up over the last 10 years.
Yeah. And that's not gonna get better, man. Let me warn you.
Exactly. So we're just kind of, these days there's still no better feeling than racing. And there's really, it's even hard to explain when you get down to the bottom of the run and you see that you're potentially in the green, and that you had a run that was good enough to land yourself on top of the box. It's such a, I don't know, it's this overwhelming sense of pride you get, especially after long grinds and maybe lots of ups and downs. I think it's just a little bit of gratification knowing that you did everything you were doing in the past is brought you to that point. And now it's time to not celebrate a little bit, but now you have to look forward right away and look at the next step and see how do we keep landing on the box, and how do we keep progressing. Because I think it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, I won, and then you're proud, you shut her down. And I think it's a whole nother ball game to look at a race run, and even though you came out on top, you still have to be able to dissect it, figure out where you could get better, and come back the next day or the next race with even more intensity.
Yeah, so like the only important matter is the next one, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So as we talked, as you kind of like started talking there about the future, like, I mean, it's very cool, like how you always focus on improving even when you win, right? So that's a mistake that some athletes do. Like when after, I mean, there's this quote, right? You either win and you learn. Like, I mean, assuming that you only learn when you lose, but you also learn a lot when you win if you have the correct mindset of always improving. So you're still young, man. So what does the future hold for you? Like, I mean, you want to just keep going, having fun, and improving and collecting medals, or like, you have any more specific goal? Like, I mean, for your short-term and long-term future?
I think for the short term, we're really focused on the next 10 months or so. Just rolling into Beijing 2022. We're grinding and gearing up for a really big season. So I'm super excited to be honest. It's been a long 4 years. This has definitely been a crazy block between games. So just digging deep, trying to keep the motivation up, and really just looking forward to getting back racing and having fun. But I think after the games, I've been focusing a lot on sport outside of ski racing in the last couple of years, especially. I'm a big believer in progression of sport, and I've had the opportunity to play outside and just dabble with sports that aren't usually available for athletes with a visual impairment. And I think I've had so much fun, and I've learned so much over the last couple of years that I'd really love to kind of pursue those, along with continue to ski race for a while. And just find different ways outside of skiing to stay motivated, and really just kind of see how far I can push myself in various aspects of sport. I've been spending a ton of time in the backcountry in the last couple of years, and between skiing and snowmobiling, and I also spend a lot of time here in Whistler. And I think a byproduct of living in Whistler is I've caught the bug for mountain biking throughout the last 10 years, and these days it's gone from just a cross training sport and somewhere to go have fun to something that I really want to push myself in. So the kind of the idea is just to continue to ski race as much as I can, but I think take a little bit of time after the games and just explore and see what I can push myself into.
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, so I mean, people that are not necessarily related to sports, like they see those gold medals and they assume that everything went just perfect, right? And like I mean, we know that it's never the case, and a lot of things happen that are unpredictable and are far from ideal. Would you like to share, like I mean, any interesting, cool, funny story that happened, like I mean, while you're competing with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is definitely the view from the outside looking in. A lot of the time is if you see athletes having a fair amount of success, that there's a lot of sunshine and rainbows going with it. But we've had a lot of ups and downs over the last 10 years, and lots of days that are really good are followed by days that set you back months at a time. And it's when you talk about the grind, it really is a constant grind. One day you could be standing on top of the podium, the next day you're sitting in a hospital bed or waiting for MRIs to take care of your body. And I think that's something that's always a little bit behind the scenes. Athletes get hurt and get injured, but over the years, I can attest to that, to things not holding up the way they used to. And I spend a lot more time with our team physios, and thank God for them. They've been able to keep me in the sport as long as I have. And if it wasn't for them, I'd be walking around a very sore man. So it's cool, man. Like along with getting hurt, there's also the fun side of sport that also isn't really seen much. The little couple days we get in between training when we can take in our surroundings a little bit, and the opportunity to travel the world and meet so many cool, crazy, fun people. It's made it a very enjoyable career so far, and I'm just so excited to get back to seeing all my friends on the World Cup, and getting to enjoy the camaraderie between nations and between different even categories. Between all the athletes we got on the circuit, there's such a good crew of people, and it's always so much fun. So it's really exciting. It's super rewarding, when you can really get stuck in the grind and focus just on racing. But I think if you take a step back and really just take in your surroundings, sometimes even just catching a really, really sweet sunset or a sunrise, and looking around and just appreciating where you are, it's been very cool.
Yeah, no, indeed, man, no doubt about it. Mac, as we start getting close to a wrap up here, like your story is obviously inspiring in itself, but I wonder if you could leave us a little message, like particularly for like young athletes that like sometimes they have like a lack of confidence, and for whatever reason they have those like self-imposed like limitations, like and they let those like minor weaknesses, like stand on the way of their progress and eventually like their glory. So any message to them, man, to stay determined, because like you're definitely an example for that.
Honestly, I'd say that the best thing you can do is just keep finding ways to go and have some fun, and take things seriously, but not too seriously. At the end of the day, there's always going to be another one. Every time the sun goes down, it's going to come up in the morning, which is pretty sweet. And, having the opportunity just to try again is something that's pretty cool. And I think if you are struggling, mentally and just trying to find ways to get back to that feeling that you had that really draw you to sport or draw you to doing whatever you're doing, try and find ways to get that feeling back, and it'll make it a heck of a lot more enjoyable. As you go through the ups and downs, even if you have bad days, if you're still having fun, it's pretty hard to call it a bad day.
Yeah, that's a words of wisdom, man, coming from a young man. Mac, it was a pleasure, man. Like, it was very nice chatting with you. As I said already, I'm going to say it again. It's a very inspiring story. We had a few people on our podcast already that have been athletes that went through a lot of limitations and accomplished things that most mortals cannot even dream of. So congratulations, man, for everything we've achieved already, and I'm sure you're still going to achieve a lot more.
Hey, thank you so much, and just thanks for the time to chat this morning. I had a lot of fun.
All right, man, have a good day, brother.
Right on, take her easy.
And that concludes today's episode of the Broad Eye Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Of course, ratings and reviews are always welcome. And you can certainly share this episode with any of your colleagues or friends who might enjoy it. Thanks for listening.